Next will be Mr. John Solomon, Chamber of Commerce, National Volunteer Week Resolution. Please come forward, state your name for the record.
John Solomon, Executive Director of the Apalachicola Bay Chamber of Commerce. Commissioners, I came to you today before you with a resolution for the county to recognize Volunteer Month and Volunteer Week, which is, like Superintendent Moses said, month of April. A little bit of what volunteers do for our community and communities worldwide. In a national study in 2013, over 62.6 million Americans volunteered during that year, with 7.7 billion hours of volunteer service. It was worth over $173 billion. That is an average of $23.07 an hour that every volunteer saves the organization they volunteer for, whether it's county, city, private organizations, private nonprofits. That rate has honestly gone up. Florida is 49 of 50 in the states in volunteering. We're one of the lowest. Evidently, they don't know Franklin County very well, or they're not keeping up with our numbers, because I think everybody in this room probably is a volunteer at some point. But what I also is doing, starting this year, is the Apalachicola Bay Chamber of Commerce will be awarding Volunteer of the Year Award for Franklin County Volunteer from this year on. We will be awarding that on April 24th, which is the first business day of National Volunteer Week, and I would just like to ask that if the County Commission would accept that resolution recognizing Volunteer Week and month in the month of April.
Pleasure of the board.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Sanders, second by Commissioner Massey. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you for coming in, John.
Yes, sir.
Next will be Mr. Mike Cooper, Williams Hospital.
Morning, Commissioners. Have just a couple things for you today. Mostly good news. Last Wednesday night, late Wednesday night, we did receive notice that our full allotment of LIP funding was approved and was in the system and actually hit our bank account last Friday. It is in our operating account as of yesterday. That was a little over $800,000. I will tell you that not all hospitals got that money. Not all hospitals received. Some that didn't get their full allotment. But I talked to TMH. They didn't get theirs. And I talked to the CEO over in Perry. He didn't get his either. So that will definitely make a big impact on our financials. As we sit here today, our days in cash are right at 30, thereabouts, and our current ratio has moved to 3.5. That brings about the next thing I want to talk about. A lot of attention is being put on the national level with what's going on with President Trump and his desire to repeal and replace the ACA. I don't see that as a major threat to this particular hospital. There are hospitals that will impact negatively. Our hospital, I don't believe it will have that kind of impact. Where I see the biggest threat right now is at the state level. And I think this story goes back 3 years. But we'll just skip that for right now. But if you've been watching the news, the governor has proposed, I think it's $989 million cut to Medicaid in his budget. The House, their proposal is for a $627 million cut to Medicaid. And the Senate has proposed a $250,000 or $250 million cut to the Medicaid program. To put that in perspective, as we sit here today, the state of Florida is 48th out of 51, including the District of Columbia, in Medicaid spending per capita. They're 49th on Medicaid spending on children, and they're 50th on Medicaid spending for maternity care. If any of those proposals go in as they are right now, we will move to 51 on all three counts. We will be the lowest in the entire country. I will tell you that our representative in the House is a big part of that. He's not very helpful with hospitals. We did get some good news last week. At least I think we are able, there is a proposal to keep rural hospitals, particularly the critical access hospitals, out of those cuts from Medicaid. But I wanted to let you know that is where I see the biggest threat at this particular point. And it is dire. When the state is at the very bottom in Medicaid funding, that says something. So.
Right quick, Michael, on that note, the Medicare funding goes to the less fortunate.
Correct.
Your elderly, your children. Well, why would the state of Florida not help these people in dire need? Doesn't make any sense to me. Everybody's not a millionaire. You know, some of these people will fall through the cracks if not given the help that they need. It just doesn't, I mean, why would they, you know, I look at all the stuff Trump's doing and how it's going to affect the elderly people that are too old to work now, or people that were born with birth defects that need the help. What are these people supposed to do? I mean, I know you don't have the answer to that, but it concerns me greatly the way that the state of Florida and some of the federal proposals are coming down. Trump is suggesting, as far as Medicaid and stuff like that goes, is giving the state a block grant. And then it's going to be up to each state. That's his proposal. And it's going to be up to each state how they implement the program. I mean, our state would not do Medicaid expansion for some of the people that qualified for some of these programs. I mean, it's concerning to me how you take away the safety net for some of these folks. And I, you know,
Well,
quite frankly, I don't agree with it. And there's
Let
not a whole
me-
lot I can do about it, just as you can't do a whole lot about it. But I mean, I just wanted to bring that out. It concerns me that the safety net for some of these folks that need the help is going away.
Let me just to expound on some of the games that are played in this Medicaid spoof, I guess. The governor made a big push to go to the Medicaid managed care plans, which we have several in the area several across the state. And basically what the managed care plan is in general is a gatekeeper plan where you go to your primary care provider before you go anywhere else, okay? And the insurance companies that run these plans get paid per capita. So if they've got 100,000 lives, they're getting paid $2 or $3 per life per month, regardless of how much business or services those people actually use. Well, I was talking with the CEO in Perry yesterday. They had 600 Medicaid managed care participants assigned to their doctors that week, 600. None of those participants were within 100 miles of their primary care providers. So what that does is send those people to the local ERs because they can't go to another primary care physician. But if they go to the ER, they know they'll get covered, but then the Medicaid managed care plan doesn't pay the provider. So basically, the insurance companies are getting paid from our state, the Medicaid money, but that's not flowing down to the providers, and it's not providing good access to care for the actual patients because they don't have access to what they need. Unfortunately, that's the way that it's going nationwide with these managed care programs. And, you know, I don't understand why states continue to do it. It's been proved that it's ineffective since the mid-1980s, and we continue to go through this every couple years. But that's my soapbox speech on Medicaid.
Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
Can I,
it was
can I
just
say
a very
something else
concerning.
too? You're talking about.
Go ahead.
You're talking about legislative stuff. We've had a update came to us yesterday by our small county coalition lobbyist who says the Rural Economic Development Bill, the major bill is moving in, is the one to restructure the Rural Economic Development Initiative. Senate Bill 600 and House Bill 333. There's a proposed rural hospital grants program bill that has moved some. The bill increasing funding and waiving the match for the rural areas of opportunity seems to be stalled in the Senate and not moved at all in the House. See, that's what happens right there. And what happens is they've tied this proposed rural hospital grant up in the rural development grant. So when they keep that down, all that other's gonna fall down with them. And see, that was gonna be something that was gonna was designed to help small hospitals.
Well, again, I put this out there because it's a perfect time for you to make some phone calls to our representatives and senators.
We'll be up there tomorrow.
I can tell you that the governor is definitely anti-hospital, anti-healthcare. The House is very much anti-hospital, anti-healthcare. And the Senate seems to be the one place where we're getting some traction at this point. And I have spent quite a bit of time up there so far this year, talking with both our lobbyists and actually with Senator Monfort, and actually attended the Senate Finance Committee on Healthcare as well. So I think it's a critical year for us to see what happens.
Go ahead, proceed.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because, you know, the state is causing all the problems. But when it come down, you and the commission get the blame. It falls down. That man up in Tallahassee doing all this, him and them senators, and they'll holler about, we got Angela care. They called the Angela care.
I agree.
That same kind of stuff they called the Angela care. We didn't. And when you walk in any hospital in the state of Florida, they tell you, you can't be refused. They can't refuse people. But they don't want to give people insurance or help the people. So, you know, I look at them and when they come up here and talk about we ain't doing this or we doing that or we spending money on this, we ain't got no other choice. By the way, you hit a home run today. I'm proud of that. With that 800,000.
The only other thing that I wanted to update you on, and then I'll take any questions that you have, is where we're at with the clinics. We did extend an offer. It was accepted for a nurse practitioner full-time to start on May 1st. She will be here. She actually currently lives in Apalachicola and has for several years. So we got her back from Port St. Joe. So you'll be seeing more about her in the near future. We have right now, it was very fortuitous, but out of the blue, we had several candidates call us, and right now I have 3 that are itching to come to work for us. And it's right now we're trying to parse out which one would be the better fit for us. We have a interim in at Apalachicola that I believe would like to stay on full-time as well, but I'm not sure where his price tag is going to be, so we'll see where we end up with that. And then I have 2 more that they just want to come. So our big issue right now is with our staff, not our providers. We just lost another staff member due to benefits, able to go to work for, I'm not sure if it was the state or the county, but she's going to work for the corrections department. But that's where we're at with the clinics right now. And I'll answer any questions.
Who is the lady? You not putting out names right now?
Her name is Suzette, and of course, I can't remember her last name. Her name is Suzette, and I've talked to so many people, Commissioner, I can't remember her last name, but,
I have a question, and it's not intended to be either way, I'm just asking a question. When you were talking about some of the other people that are wanting to apply for a job, you were unsure of their price tag, and this is not meant to be any way, I just have a question. I know every job I've ever applied for have told me this is what we're gonna pay. As opposed to, it just seemed kind of open-ended the way you said it, in other words, you know.
we've
I'm
had
just
some
asking a question
discussions
about
on that, but generally, we like to know if we want the candidates before we start discussing, you know, how much it's gonna cost. I mean, we don't get way down the road, but that's not the first question we ask, or usually not in the first interview, but.
That's fine. Like I said, I'm not trying to, you know, be any way about it, but I know in every job I've ever been to, in other words, it wasn't open for discussion. If you want more money or you don't want to do this job, then, you know, this is what we can afford to pay.
Right,
I
and-
guess is where I'm coming from.
And that's exactly where we're at. We've got a pretty strict budget, and we're sticking to it, so.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other comments from the commissioners? Board recess for 5 minutes. Thank you, Mike. Board of County Commissioners are now back in session. Next will be Ms. Marcia Johnson, Clerk of the Court.
I don't have a report this morning, Chair.
No report from the clerk this morning. Next would be Mr. Alan Pierce, Records Coordinator. Records Coordinator. Restore Coordinator. Sorry about that.
I forget sometimes what I'm doing too, so. All right, we've done item number one. Item number two, board action to confirm a letter Mr. Warren Yeager asked Chairman Parrish to sign supporting Senate Bill 364, which is the Triumph Bill. Mr. Yeager contacted Gulf, Franklin, and Wakulla counties and asked for letters of support to Senators Mumford and Senator Gaynor for an amendment that would set aside a minimum of 6% of Triumph funds for each county, and that the applicant for the Triumph funds would be the county commission. The Senate bill is being debated. In fact, it's, I think, maybe being debated today. So it was essential the letter went out last week. All three counties sent similar letters, so I'd like the board's authorization to ratify the letter that we sent in there on behalf of,
Real quickly, I'll make a comment on that. At the Appalachia Regional Planning Council also unanimously voted to send a letter in support of this at the last meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Sanders, second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All opposed? That motion carries.
I say the bill's being debated now, and there might be another component of this. I haven't followed it, whether it's changed. At one point, they were going to expand the Triumph Board to have two more members on the Triumph Board, one of which at least would come from either Gulf, Franklin, or Wakulla counties. And so there was an issue that the small counties felt that the board itself was disproportionately in favor of everybody west of Bay County, and so they were trying to expand the board, but I don't know how that is
I
shaped.
thought the two board members, Alan, would come from those next two board members would come from those three counties.
Okay, I wasn't sure of both.
So we'd have some
Okay,
representation for the smaller counties in this 8-county coalition.
Okay,
That's on the Triumph Board, and I think that's part of this bill.
okay.
That it states that, so that's one reason I was in favor of it. Another thing is it designates at least 6% of those funds are to be spent in Franklin County.
That's
So
right.
we're guaranteed to have that. It's a matter of how we spend it and utilize it and try to create some jobs and different things like that. But at least this way we know we have some money coming out of that. Now, the other 42% of the funds, 52% of the funds can also be applied through a number of different ways from this county to any of the other 8 counties or NGOs or anybody else. So the 6% is not a cap for us, it's just a guaranteed thing. So I think it's a good bill, and I'm glad we wrote the letter. And I'm glad Appalachia Regional Planning Council also had their board vote to unanimously send a letter in support of this.
I support that. I think Senator Gaynor and Senator Moffett has done a good job on that, so.
Do they know the numbers of that 6%?
quite
Well,
substantial.
if it's $400 million is in the Triumph Fund, 6% would be $24 million. So that would be a minimum set aside for each county. Now, it's assuming the legislature allocates, there's $400 million that BP has already paid the state of Florida, and so assuming the legislature allocates all $400 million, which I think they are, but there is that battle going on, Commissioner Lockley, about how much money is going to go into the Triumph Fund.
Oh, thank you.
And I will say, without a bill at all, the money stays, the $400 million, and doesn't get allocated, and Triumph doesn't have any money. So the legislature, if they don't act, then this just gets put off one more year. So we hope they act this year. Okay, and item number 3. As I reported at the last meeting, 3 U.S. Treasury representatives visited Franklin County on March 28th and 29th for a compliance review of the county in relation to the federal regulations associated with receiving restore funds. As Aaron Griffin, Mark Carrington, and I learned, we need to make changes to some of the policies and procedures the county utilizes in managing federal funds. And these are some of the changes. And somehow number A is appropriate since apparently this is April is Volunteer Appreciation Month. So A is, Treasury requests Franklin County Board of County Commissioners at the next meeting, which is April 4th, reconfirm my designation as the authorizing official for the Franklin County Restore Act Planning Assistance Award. While the board took my action to accept my status as a volunteer to complete the MYIP in September 2016, Treasury would like a letter to that effect. So I've drafted a letter that Treasury has approved, identifying that I'm still the authorizing agent and I'm acting as a volunteer status. And we need
Need board
approval.
action?
Yes, sir.
Pleasure of the board.
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Sanders, second by Commissioner Lockley. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carried.
Okay, and then B, the county needs to develop written policies and procedures that fulfill all the requirements of 2 CFR 200, which is a section of Code of Federal Regulations that pertains to grants. County staff may seek outside assistance in the development of this grants manual from such sources as Debbie Romelis, as she is extremely familiar with federal grants. Depending on the scope of the project, it may be necessary to contract this work to her, but Aaron, Mark, and I will come back to the board with a recommendation if that is necessary. We just need to have more stuff in writing, which is, you know, when we're working full-time trying to process things, sometimes the last thing you want to do is sit back and write down how you did it, because we're just trying to do it. But the Treasury wants more documentation. So item C is county staff had a closeout meeting with Treasury representatives at 4 p.m. on March 29th. I believe Treasury is satisfied with the competence and professionalism of the county staff. Our weakness is that a lot of the policies and procedures we implement are not written down. Thus, the reason for creating a grants manual. And there wasn't any big glaring oversights that we've been committing so far. It's just a matter of documenting to the satisfaction of the federal government how we do things, and that's what we're going to work on. And that's the end of my report, unless there's other items. There is one other item, actually. So I reported on my meeting with, last time with the consultants for the consortium. Tomorrow morning, another group of consultants are coming down, but there's not ESE, so I'm not sure why they're coming, but just let the board know that
Is that a
somebody else.
subcontractor for the
For the
consultant?
consortium wants to come down for a half hour tomorrow, and I'll give Commissioner Sanders the name in a minute, but it's not, it was nobody I recognize, and they want to come down and talk to me about consortium stuff. So I don't know if there's some,
But it's not with the ESA?
no, it's not them. I don't know if it's competition. They mentioned something, well, we're here to make sure that ESC is satisfying your needs. So I don't know if there's some competition going on among
Well,
consultants.
I'll find out Thursday, because we've got a consortium meeting Thursday.
In Tallahassee.
Uh-huh, at Commonwealth Building.
And I'll give you
But
the name in a
find
minute. I
out.
just
I'll
forgot the
find
name.
out.
Okay, that's the end of my report.
Okay. Next on the agenda would be Michael Morone County Coordinator Report.
We go straight to item number 4, Commissioners. Board action to authorize the chairman's signature on a revision to the county's Title VI policy and plan. This revision includes a new ADA statement that defines what a disabled person is. This revision was recommended by the Department of Economic Opportunity as part of their review of a community development block grant the county received. It's something that went through Mark, and he sent it for your approval.
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Lockley,
Second.
second by Commissioner Sanders. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
Item number 5, board action to authorize the chairman's signature on an amendment to our contract with Hondo Enterprises for the removal of derelict vessels. This amendment will allow the contractor to remove a sailboat located at East Pass at the end of St. George Island. The total cost to remove this sailboat is $19,800. The county received $14,850 of FWC grant funding and is providing $4,950 in match from the Florida Boating Improvement Fund.
Pleasure of the board.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Sanders, second by Commissioner Massey. Any further discussion?
Yeah. Is there, how far along with with removing all of them?
I said, I don't know, I have to check with Mark, so I don't even.
I think they're almost through. I think
Yeah.
this is just an additional because they had some leftover monies, but I think they're pretty much through with the original contract.
The deadline is the end of May, including the deadline for the removal of this additional vessel.
Yeah. I'll double check with.
And
I'll
we're
double check
checking to
with
try to get some additional funding if they have any more left on 2 more vessels that were identified. FWC has went and found, and one of them is up the main Apalachicola River.
Mhm.
And they called me, and I told them where it was at, and they called me back, and they had found the vessel, but we don't have the funding for that yet, so
Okay,
we're hoping to keep moving forward and remove some additional vessels,
okay.
should the money become available. We do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
Item number 6, staff has received a deadhead logging permit landing authorization from the Department of Environmental Protection. This request is on behalf of William Parker and Charles Golden to conduct this activity at McIntyre Landing. A copy of the permit is attached. Let me explain. Ever since I started, I've been, ever so often they'll come back with these requests, and I could go back, I can't go into minutes and find anywhere where the board ever approved something like this. So without board approval, I can't do it. Now, there was once or twice where they said, oh, Mr. Pierce signed it off. I checked with Howard, and Howard said the last time they did it, they tore up
The landing.
the landing wherever it was, and he had to
Part
spend a
of it
lot of
was
time
Mackin-
and fix it. So I need once and for all some board directions. Do you want staff to go ahead and just approve these after checking with, your road superintendent? Or do you want me to bring everyone to the board? How do we want to handle these in the future?
One landing the board closed to getting logs out of. Now, I don't remember which landing it was.
We did Pine Log because it was causing the boating thing. But we also had to close McIntyre down to them because they tore up the McIntyre boat ramp too. And I know that there was some deadhead loggers that went into the Rock Landing area, and Forestry had to move them out of there too because they tore up the landing back then too. So we have always took a policy, especially for Pine Log, and because it's a creek,
Okay.
coming in there. Pine Log and McIntyre, that we don't allow it on there, we don't approve it.
What I'm trying to understand is you're getting a landing authorization from the Department of Environmental Protection. Are they saying they're not going to issue the permit to these guys if they don't have a place to pull the logs out? Where's the state getting involved in who can and who cannot use these county landing ramps?
What we've said in the past is, when they've come, find you somebody that's got some property on there and ask them to use your property, that's the way we've always done.
I think the way it should be done is that they should have to put up some kind of bond when they're using these, because they do it at Abercrombie too. And so far, they've not tore the ramp up. But there's no recourse for the county if these ramps are tore up by these private individuals using them to haul logs instead of pull a boat out. We may need to direct county attorney to look at this and have them put up a bond. So if they tear up the ramps the county has here,
Be fixed by it.
well, they're wanting to use county property that belongs to everybody in the county, and if they tear them up where the people of the county can't use them, then the county has to go and fix them. That's not right.
That's what happened with Pine
If you're
Log.
using them for their own business interests, I don't believe. I think they should have to put put up a bond for
I
that.
tell you what we'll do.
I mean, I'll leave it to the attorney and to
Yeah.
the pleasure of the board, but that's kind of my thoughts on that.
What we'll do is I'll make a motion that we instruct the attorney to look at it and come back with a recommendation for us on how we need to proceed ahead.
Either have a bond or have insurance or something to repair these ramps
Yeah,
if they're
'cause
tore
it
up by
didn't.
hauling these logs. Another issue is if they drop these, some of these logs get dropped right there where the boats launch. Then they just leave them. And then somebody tears a prop up or tears a foot off their motor. I mean,
Well, our problem was with pine log, what happened is you got a concrete that goes down like that, and they were bringing those logs out on the side on that concrete. Well, they didn't realize, or maybe they did, that they tore the concrete out. Well, what happened was they left it whinker jawed up, and what happened was the person went to back the boat down there, grabbed the whole of the trailer and tore the whole axle out from underneath the boat trailer. So guess who they come after, wanting us to pay? And said, we can't have that.
we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Sanders to direct the attorney to look at this issue and come up with a suggestion for the county.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All opposed? That motion carries. As far as the action item on 6, should we delay that? Should we take action on that?
I was gonna delay it until he,
I would infer the board's direction is to delay any action until the board makes a decision on how to move forward in the future.
Okay.
I mean, it's up to the board, but that would be my
We
answer.
delay it and table it until we
yeah,
get something
I'll
from the
consider
attorney.
tabled until,
Can I say
Okay.
something?
Yes.
Well, I'm not trying to knock nobody from making no money, but when you dealing with that kind of stuff, you got to have the proper equipment. You got to have more than a rope and a truck to pull something out.
Right.
You got to have something to work with.
I agree.
That's a good point as well, Commissioner Lockley.